sacrifices they have made and the courage it takes to defend honor, duty, country. We also remember the 6 million Holocaust victims and survivors. The Holocaust was the murder of 6 million individual Jewish men, women, and children. We must not forget that the attempted destruction of Europe's Jews caused incalculable damage and grief, which is still felt today. In remembering the Holocaust, we acknowledge and contemplate this huge loss. With us in the audience is Mrs. Helen Sperling, a Holocaust victim and survivor who, after liberation, was hospitalized for almost 3 years. She was sick with pneumonia and cancer. Mrs. Sperling taught at Colgate College for over 2 decades. At one of her many lectures describing her experiences and sufferings that she endured at the hand of the Nazis, a student asked Helen if she can forgive the Nazis. Her reply was, "The issue is not whether or not we forgive the Nazis. The issue is whether we learn the lesson. And I'm afraid, my friends, we have not learned the lesson." And then she implored the students, "You have learned it. You must learn it. Go and save the world." I'm honored to Mrs. Helen Sperling to be here today. World War II was an event that unified the people of our nation like no other time in history. While our veterans fought on the front lines, millions of other Americans served on the home front, providing the necessary equipment and support, like metal recycling drives and war bonds for those in uniform. The writer, Michael de Montaigne, once said, "Valor is stability, not of legs and arms, but of courage in the soul." Every one of these veterans is a hero, and each one of them deserves to be remembered for the contributions and sacrifices they made to free the world of tyranny. If you have lost a loved one who served America in their darkest hour, consider it an honor, because I consider it my patriotic duty to remember our World War II veterans, not only today, but always. We're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today, and those who are only here in spirit, a person can't help but feel awed by the enormity of what we encounter. We stand in the midst of patriots and a family of friends of those who have nobly served. Those who answered the call of duty came from all walks of life, but they shared several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Every day in America, we bid farewell to World War II veterans who served this country in places such as Normandy, Iwo Jima, Guam, and Bastogne. Only those who have seen the horrors of war firsthand can ever truly know what these soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines went through in their final moments. Perhaps they were charging out of the landing craft at Omaha Beach with no place to hide and no chance of retreat. Or maybe they were in a burning aircraft plunging to earth, trying desperately to escape a fiery death. In 48 months of World War II, there were 1,078,162 American casualties, with 407,360 deaths, or 6,639 American women and men dying in a month. These are staggering numbers, but Americans in their field never faltered. Even after 19,000 American troops died at the Battle of the Bulge in December of 1944, or the 13,000 that died, most in hand-to-hand combat, taking Okinawa, the Americans persevered. Their courage and sacrifice knew no bounds, and under a steadfast commander-in-chief, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and his generals, Eisenhower, Bradley, MacArthur, and Patton, we would have victory. Each of them knew what their duty was, but surely each of them also dreamed of going home to the people they loved and the life they cherished. Each of them had families waiting eagerly to see them again. We know that they were forced to leave their hopes and dreams behind when they went off to war. They parted with them forever when they died. We can recognize their sacrifices by taking care of the comrades who are still among us. The history deserves a place at your dinner table, at work, at church, at academic institutions, or a youth group meeting. Wherever it may be, honor their sacrifice and cherish the moment. Thank you. With us here today is a World War II veteran who has served the horrors, With us here today is a World War II veteran who has seen the horrors of war firsthand. He saw the incomprehensible atrocities human beings can inflict on each other. And I asked Dr. Joanne Joseph to introduce today's guest speaker, Mr. Alan Moskin.
Good afternoon. Alan Moskin was born in Englewood, New Jersey on May 30th, 1926. He attended Syracuse University both before and after his military service in World War II, and he graduated in May of 1948. He then attended New York University Law School, graduating with a JD degree in June of 1951. He practiced law as a civil trial attorney in New Jersey for over 20 years and subsequently worked in a private business sector until he retired in 1991. Alan was drafted into the military service at the young age of 18 and served in the United States Army during World War II from September 1944 until August 1946. He was the member of the 66th Infantry 71st Division, part of General George Patton's 3rd Army. Alan's outfit fought in combat through France, Germany, and Austria, during which time he was promoted in rank from private to staff sergeant. On May 4th, 1945, his company participated in the liberation of the Birkenstein concentration camp. After the war ended, Alan remained in Europe until June 1946 as a member of the U.S. Army of Occupation. Alan presently resides in Nantucket, New York, and he has spoken to middle school and high school students, as well as other groups in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, North and South Carolina, Florida, and elsewhere about his experiences as an infantry combat soldier and a concentration camp liberator. He has done video recordings at the Museum of Jewish Heritage in New York City and at the Holocaust Museum and Study Center in Suffern, New York. He has also participated in programs at the United States Military Academy at West Point, at the U.S. Coastal Guard Academy in Connecticut, at the German School in White Plains, on Russian television, on the CBS radio network, and on the documentary, The Jewish Americans, on the PBS television network. Alan has 2 grown daughters and 7 grandchildren. He presently serves as vice president on the board of trustees of the Holocaust Museum and the Study Center, and is also past commander of Rockland Orange District Council of the Jewish War Veterans of the USA. Alan was also inducted into the New York State Senate's Veteran Hall of Fame in 2014. It's with great pleasure that I introduce to you Alan Moskin.
going to say good morning, but it's good afternoon. I have to correct the pronunciation of the camp, but no one gets that name. It's the Gunskirchen Lager subcamp of Mauthausen, and I live in Nanuet. No one pronounces that town right either. At the outset, let me just say that I wear this cap whenever I speak. It's a personal thing. It's my outfit, the 71st Division, and it makes me feel connected to a lot of my buddies who were less fortunate than me and never came back home. So I just feel that they're with me whenever I speak, and that's why I always wear this cap when I speak. You heard my background. World War II soldier, liberator. My talk is in two parts. First part is about me. I want you to get to know me and my background a little bit. Soldier, a boy, a student, a soldier, a combat soldier, and then the second part, main focus, what happened when this young soldier became a concentration camp liberator. I'm known to tell it like it is. I don't pull any punches. I'm an old infantry grunt. I may throw out some words that some people might find offensive. If so, I apologize in advance. I use any words that offend anybody, I apologize, but I'm not changing anything. What you hear is what happened. I'm graphic. Most of you look like graduate students, so I think you can handle it. I always start out by telling everybody that for 50 years, I didn't speak to anybody about my experiences in combat or as a liberator. Nobody. Not my mother, my father, my girlfriends, later my wife, my children. 50 years. The reason was that I was very fearful of bringing back those very frightening and disturbing nightmares that I had when the war ended. And I mean nightmares. I remember walking the streets in Austria and Germany 3, 4, 5 in the mornings. I couldn't sleep, and I tried to sleep. My buddies would say I was cursing and shouting, and I remember sweating, and I used to walk 3, 4, 5 in the morning. I just didn't want to try to sleep. At times I thought I was going crazy. And that's not easy to say, but it was a difficult time. In retrospect, I'm sure that I had PTSD. They didn't know what that was in World War II. We never heard that term. The only term we ever heard was they'd go shell shock. Like that meant you were crazy. So they didn't know how to treat it. They didn't, you better fight your way through it, or they'd be going, you'd be sent somewhere you didn't want to go to. So it was like I took a key, I locked up that part of my brain, I threw the key away and didn't want to find the key. Anybody asked me about what I did in World War II, I said I was a good soldier. I followed orders and changed the subject. 50 years. Then I moved up to Rockland County, where I live now. And a lady at the local Holocaust Museum, somebody must have told her that I was a soldier with Patton and liberator, and she called me, "Is that true, Mr. Moskin?" "Yes." "Oh boy, now I got somebody to speak to the middle school and the high school students." I said, "Hold it. You don't have anybody to speak," and boom, I hung up the phone. I guess I was rude, but I was kind of shook up all of a sudden. But she kept calling me in a nice, aggressive kind of a, "Please, it's so important. You have to speak to the young people. They got to hear the truth, and just do it once. If it's too much for you, I'll never ask you to speak again." So I spoke for the first time on June 10, 1995, 50 years after the end of the war in Europe. And baby, I was dead wrong. It was like a catharsis. It was like a purging of all that. I just started to go, and I went for an hour and a half without stopping. Like all that poison I've been bottling up inside just came out of me. And I can tell you, since June 10, 1995, I've been a busy camper. Last count, over 120 middle school, high school, colleges, 25 to 30,000 students, and that's My main goal, let's assume you're all graduate students here, because that's what you look like to me. It's like a calling with me now. I want to try to reach as many, particularly of the students, that I can, and let them know the truth about what really happened back then. I'll speak anywhere, and as long as I got the strength, I'm going to continue to do it. Today is good. I don't know about tomorrow, but we'll go one day at a time. Let me give you, you heard a little bit about my background. I was born in Englewood, New Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. May 30th, 1926. I can't change that. Next month, 89. No one lived that long when I was a kid, baby. That's old. I always feel that somebody else can't be me. But today is good. We'll worry about tomorrow. So, I was born in a very ethnic neighborhood, 4th Ward, Englewood, New Jersey, near the Teaneck border. Best thing ever happened to me. I think it molded my character when I think back. How it happened, I don't know, but in the 4th Ward in Englewood, there were Jewish kids like myself. There were Catholic, Protestant, Methodist boy, an Indian, a Hispanic, a complete diverse group. I never saw any thing that happened to me, and in all my experience, and that had happened anywhere else. Such a mix. We walked to school together. We all lived very close together. I could look out my kitchen window and see the Greens next door. Hi, how are you? There was only an alley between all the houses. We played in the streets together. Mothers all cooked dinner those days. Every mother. I'm putting the mothers down. My both daughters worked. I know it's a different world, but every mother cooked dinner. Fathers came home for dinner. We didn't have any of that technology. You sat at a table, you argued, you laughed, what you do in school. I was an athlete, I played a lot of, but I remember we verbalized, and I don't see that today, and it bothers me. It's the emotions of talking. You don't get emotions when you're in that machine constantly. That's why I have these notes, because I deviate and I'll be all over the place. But what I remember is that what Maya Angelou, the poet, said, one of my favorite poets, author, died unfortunately last year. Maya Angelou said, people are more alike than different. I learned what didn't matter what the color of your skin or religion, it never even entered my mind, because we grew up little kids together. We were each other's homes together. My best friend was a colored boy, George. He lived next door to me. His mother and my mother were like sisters. And unfortunately, as I got older, I realized that many people in this universe didn't have the benefit of living in the 4th Ward in Englewood, and they didn't feel the way I do and did, to my regret. Went through the Englewood school system. When I hit 17, 2 weeks after my 17th birthday, I went up to the Q's. You all know Syracuse. They skipped me. I was pretty young. They skipped me from 3rd. I went to 4th grade. They skipped me from 3rd to 5th. They must have thought I had something upstairs. I didn't like it. I was pissed because I was a good athlete and I didn't want to be younger than the other guys, but what can I do? They skipped me. So when I hit 17, boom, I was up at Syracuse. 1 year later, I got the draft notice. Anybody from World War II will know what I'm talking about. Big envelope, open it up, big letters, greetings. That's the first word I saw. Greetings, like you're going to a wedding, a bar mitzvah, who knows what. I don't know who picked that word out, but meant you reported for a physical. If you passed your physical exam, you went in the Army, the Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, whatever. I went into the United States Army. Went down to Camp Landing, the northern part of Florida, for 3+ months of infantry basic training. Let me try to just be brief about infantry basic training. It's learning how to kill or be killed. It's learning how to survive in combat. Now, I was a good athlete. I was a jock, I guess you'd call it, baseball, football, basketball, but I never had a gun in my hand before. So it was quite a transition from being a student to learning how to shoot an M1 rifle, which was my baby. Never left my side. After BAR, which is the Browning automatic rifle, a machine gun, stick a bayonet in somebody's belly. But you do what you have to do, and I followed orders. I was a good soldier, I have to say it myself. Now, I encountered bias in camp landing. Isn't that a pretty part of my talk? But I tell it because, number one, it's the truth. And number two, it had a bearing on me. I was a young 18-year-old boy, not a, an old, mature adult. I got along with all the Southern boys, initially. And we were told we could put pictures behind our bunk. My mother, my father, my many girlfriends. But I put a picture also of our sectional basketball team that won the sectionals from Bergen County. I was a little point guard, my best friend, colored boy. By the way, if I use the word colored, you'll see anybody colored, don't take it offense. That's the word we used then. We didn't use the word black. My oldest daughter's always hocking on my politically correct. I never heard the word black when I was a kid. Colored was not a bad word. At any rate, my best friend, colored boy Georgie, two other colored boys, Billy Willis, Perry Saunders, and our big Roman Catholic center, Billy O, was 6 feet a half inch, and woof, what a rebounder. When I think back, that's a long time ago. Man, they bring up the ball at 6'8" now. I mean, things have changed, but we were a hell of a good team. Won the sectionals. I was proud of that picture. When you win, you have your arms around each other, like this, right after the Southern boys are walking by, and then I hear boop, boop, beep, mumbling with it. College boy, is that you in that picture? Well, college boy was my nickname. We all had nicknames, and I can tell you, that was one of the better ones. I was college boy. Yeah, I said, that's me. What's the big one? They looking, and all of a sudden I hear verbatim, "You got your arms around that nigger?" I said, "Hey, what?" Talking about my best friend, number one. "You heard me. You got your arms around that nigger baboon?" Well, I hadn't heard anything like this before, and I was upset. And you don't know me. I'm not violent, believe me, but I'm known to be feisty. Let's put it that way. I don't back off when I get upset. I've been in a lot of fights. I was an amateur boxer. My nose has been busted more than I can count. When I heard that, baby, I was ready to go. And I don't mean it of John either. I was hot and I was ready to go. But the northern boys say, "Hey, take it easy. They're ignorant." But so I let it go. Every day on the assignment board where you get latrine or guard or mess duty, big red letters. Favorite term was nigger lover. That's what they called me. I was the nigger lover. Then I was the kike and the sheeny. These are not very endearing terms for anybody that's Jewish. So I couldn't take it. I challenged who it was. Reveille, big linebacker out of Birmingham, Alabama, Charlie Palaskius. He busted me up. He was a foot taller than me. I got a few in the gabanza, and these little guys, I always hit them in the gabanza when they're big. But I don't want to get into the violence. I'm just saying, the reason I talked about this, and up at the Coast Guard Academy, some Southern boys took offense to it. They said, "Mr. Moskin, you're an excellent speaker. Why'd you have to go into all that?" It had nothing to do with the Holocaust. I said I went into it. Number one, it's the truth. I might add, by the way, I rode on a bus, and it was a big banner. It looked like a country club on a block. Big white banner in black letters. When I looked out the window of the bus, "No colored, dash, no Jews, dash, no dogs wanted in here." Now, I didn't take kindly to that. I said, "Is this America?" So the reason I tell it is that I'm 18, I'm going over to fight the Nazis, the bad guys, we're the good guys, and I got guys on my side, on my team, thinking and talking like that. I found it very disturbing. It's garbage then, it's garbage now. I don't like that kind of stuff. But the truth is the truth, that I couldn't fight the war. That's how it was in the South in the 40s, what I saw. It was bad. And I might add, and I'm going to get off this, that in combat, this outfit, my 71st, we didn't have any of that garbage. We loved each other. All we cared about, you protect my right flank, left flank, buddy in the back. I didn't care whether you're Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, whatever color. We loved each other. That's where you heard the term band of brothers when you're in combat. But in the South, it wasn't nice. People get offended, I'm sorry. That's how it was. After the completion of basic training, 3-day furlough, shipped overseas over the Atlantic Ocean, Liberty ship convoy. Those Liberty ships were like rowboats in the ocean, baby. We didn't go over on the Elizabeth. I found some of the guys later I didn't know had gone over on the Elizabeth. Big ship, but everybody was seasick, everybody on all fours. It wasn't pretty going from both ends, pardon me, but I'm telling you, I'm getting nauseous thinking about it. 11, 12 days to get across the Atlantic. Landed in Liverpool, England. Went across the Channel into France, into a replacement camp where you get sent up to join an outfit. And I was sent up to join the 66th Infantry Regiment, 71st Infantry Division, part of the 3rd Army, led by old George S. Patton himself. You'll have to have me come back I could go for 2 hours on General Patton. I don't have the time today. Just let me tell you that we came up to the front line a couple of times. Generals were not supposed to do that, but he loved us grunts. That's the infantry guys were called grunts, not the officers. So he was tough on them. And he marched with us, and he used to argue with Ike, my captain told me, because Ike said, you damn well can't be up at the front. Generals are not allowed up at the front. But he pushed us and forced us, and I'm proud to say that we went further east than any other infantry division, the 71st. But we fought in places like Coburg and Beirut and Hamburg and Nuremberg and Regensburg and Straubing, the Rhineland campaign, the Central European campaign. And in every one of these campaigns, I lost a lot of my buddies. Too many. Too many. And I'm just one of the lucky ones. I'm just one of the lucky ones. If I was 100 meters to the right or 100 meters to the left, I wouldn't be here. And I don't know why sometimes I went through a lot of guilt for a long time, and I get nervous when I get into this a little bit, but it's kind of a psychological thing. I wanted to be with my buddies a lot. And we'll leave it at that because I don't want to get all... I'm going to tell you a little bit about combat. I usually tell the younger people mostly because some of these guys, and you guys and my grandchildren included, think there's something macho and heroic about killing and all that garbage they show on television and the movies. And my grandchildren with the video games, and I don't like it, and my daughters know how I feel about it. Being in combat's like being a Hellenbach. Nothing heroic or macho about it. I never saw a hero or an atheist in a foxhole, I can tell you that. I saw plenty. You see body parts flying around. There's no joy. Remember the second day I was on the front line? All hell is breaking loose. The Krauts are throwing mortars and artillery, and something hits the top of my head, and I reach up like this, and I'm holding a blood-soaked arm, just an arm. And fingers are doing this in front of me. On the wrist is a tattoo of an eagle. And I start screaming, Wiltsey, Wiltsey, damn it, Wiltsey, because Wiltsey had an eagle on his wrist. And he was going to soar like an eagle after the war. And now I'm holding his arm. I just talked to him 10 minutes before. You think that doesn't shake you up? Young 18-year-old boy in combat? And the best soldier I knew, my best friend, TR from a little town outside Detroit. We hit it off right from the start. You talk about family and girlfriends and mom and dad and religion and, 24 hours a day with a guy in a foxhole and seeing your buddies getting blown apart. It's hard to put in words. But you get really close. And he was always trying to help the rooks. The rooks are the rookies. The first day you're on the line, you're scared. Any soldier that's on combat in the front line tells me he wasn't scared is a liar, a jackass, a moron, or a combination of all three. Everybody's scared. Guys do peeing their pants, pardon my French, and do worse than that, nothing to be ashamed about either. So this particular day, he was doing his thing again. The Sergeant Ollie says, hit the hole, incoming, you get from the crowd. So, and before I went down, I looked to my right, and I see TR doing the same damn thing with the new guys, left flank, left flank. I went down and let up after about a minute, and I get up and I looked to my right, and I couldn't see where he was, and I knew that wasn't a good sign, and I ran about 100, 200 meters to my right, and there he was with in a crouched position in the back of his head against a crater, and his right leg was about 10 or 15 feet off his body, and his insides were all over, messed up. I damn near fainted when I saw that, but I ran up and put my helmet under his chin. I didn't want him to look down and see what I saw, because when you get to know what shock is, and when a soldier goes into shock to the eyes, and that's bad news. And all he said to me was, Allie, I'm numb. Allie, the only one called me Allie. Everybody called me college boy. Allie, I'm numb. I can't. Can you help me? Can you help me? I start screaming, medic, damn it, medic, medic. And I knew nothing a medic could do, but you know, you do things by instinct sometime. And that. Then the sergeant said, come on, Sergeant Ollie, get your rear end up, college boy. You can't be staying back with the wounded. Those are the orders. You're not allowed to stay back with the wounded. You gotta let the medics do their job. And so I leave my best friend, best soldier I knew, died in a filthy crater in Germany. You don't get over something like that, baby, ever, ever, ever. And the lieutenant asked me if I wanted to write the letter to his mother. The officers usually did that, and he knew how close we were, and I could write pretty well. And damn it, I remember 3 or 4 nights in a foxhole with a flashlight and crayon, anything. I used to scribble on toilet paper, and I gave it to the lieutenant later on, and he transcribed it and sent it back to his mom. And we became pretty close after the war. I used to go out to his hometown for a number of years, the anniversary of his death, and she died about 25 years ago. So, but I still think about him. He died much too young. What a hell of a guy. And the last thing, and I'll get off this, it's a little bit different. I was a scout, and the scouts go in ahead of the main outfit to make sure we don't get ambushed by the crowds. I forget what town it was. They paired me up with this Santana. He could hit a beer bottle 200 yards. What a shot. I guess he was the shooter. I was the brains. He paired us up, and this particular day we came under fire from a second-floor ledge. The perpetrator was shooting at my buddy who was out in the open. I was lucky to get behind a Panzer tank, German tank. Didn't see me, and when he came out, I got off a few rounds, and my M1 made a hit, falls to the ground. We run up, and laying on the ground is dead, young, blonde, blue-eyed, 15, 16-year-old Santana. I look, what the hell? How can you be so young? In retrospect, we realized later he was a member of what's called the Hitler Youth, the Hitler Jugend. We didn't know it at the time. Next to the body was a helmet, and inside the helmet was a picture of an elderly man and woman. And when I say this, I said before, I was 18, and somebody in their 40s, you know, I say elderly, and now I'm double that age, but at any rate, looked like an elderly man, came up to me like this. No, excuse me, I'm losing track. The elderly man and woman was they were glued into the helmet of this young soldier. And underneath the picture of the man and the woman was "Wir liebe dich, Mutti und Vati," scribbled. And that's German. I knew it was "We love you, Mom and Dad." And even though the rational part of my brain, I knew I did the right thing. He would have blown me away if he saw me behind that tank. I followed orders. I knew all that. That I killed this young teenage boy and wasn't going home to that mom and dad was one of my nightmares over and over. I couldn't get that picture of that nice-looking elderly man and woman that I killed their son. I killed plenty. I was a good soldier. I did my job. I killed plenty of the Nazis. I'm gonna tell you right up front, I never enjoyed killing. Wasn't my cup of tea. I'll get off this now, but I'm just gonna say, I like the young people, again, to know that being in combat is like being to hell and back, and I don't like guns, and I don't like violence, and I don't like any of that garbage that I think they show too much. And we get something like the guy gets nuts like a Newtown, and who knows how it affects some young person once in a while, but I think the most realistic picture of combat that I've seen was the movie Saving Private Ryan. I couldn't stay in, it was so realistic, the first 20 minutes of that movie. I don't know how Spielberg did it, but it gives you an idea about combat. From Germany, we were moving from the west to the east to squeeze the Krauts, and the Russians were coming from the east to the west near the end of the war. We were taking a lot of prisoners, and most of them, a lot of them were these Hitler youth. They all, we said, they were young-looking, blonde, blue-eyed, hands, held fierce soldiers, killed a lot of my buddies. In retrospect, I always thought, I think it was the beginning of cloning, that Hitler was trying to, clone the pure white Aryan race. All these young Nazi, full of hate. The two elements that we fought, the Hitler Youth and the Waffen-SS, not the German Wehrmacht as far as I was concerned. They were just German soldiers doing their job, trying to kill us like we're trying to kill them. But the hate that the Waffen-SS, the Nazi officers, I had 5 of my buddies taken prisoner by those SOBs. We found them the next day in a crater, with each one with a bullet hole in the back of the neck. We weren't going to take any Waffen-SS prisoners, I can tell you that, and the media can take a flying jump. They don't like it. But this particular day near the end of the war, I particularly talk about, we had hundreds of these Hitler Youth, and we had this big blonde, looked like he was the leader. We had him shackled, his arms behind his back and his ankles shackled, and he walked in this direction. I'm sorry. Then he made a right turn. I was standing a little to the rear. He came right up to me this close, and he starts screaming at my face, Schweinhund, Schweinhund, Medikanes Schweinhund, and starts spitting in my face, full of hate. And the spit, the saliva is coming down my cheeks, and I was tired, and I was pissed, and I'd been on the line over 24 hours, and I lost a lot of my buddies. Some, I told you about TR, and this young Nazi spitting in my face. I took my M1 rifle, and I picked it up. It was always on my hip, baby. Picked it up, put it right where we're trained, right at the right temple over the ear. Took the safety off, man. I can feel my finger every time I tell this shaking. And the major starts screaming, damn it, college boy, don't be a damn fool. He not worth it. You can't be doing that in front of me. Damn it, put that gun down. I'll GCM you, I'll GCM you. GCM is a general court martial. I wanted to blow that hateful Nazi away, but I put the gun down, kicked him in the butt, cursed him in English, and that's the end of that story. But I never forget the hate that he didn't even know, the hate that he had in his face. They all, they're full of the hate that Waffen-SS and the Nazis, and they hit the youth. Now let me get to the main focus. Around the beginning of May 1945, our outfit came across a POW camp, prisoner of war camp, in Lambach in Austria. Mostly British flyboys, RAF, in pretty good shape, a little thin, obviously. For the first time, we heard something like this. Hey guys, we heard rumors that the camp for Jews a few kilometers down the road. Camp for Jews. And I remember my buddies and I, we all looked at each other, what the hell are you talking about? Camp for Jews? We don't know anything about camps for Jews. And I emphasize that because when I speak, a lot of the middle school, high school kids come up in Q&A and say, did you say you didn't know about camps for Jews? I said, that's right. He said, I thought you went overseas to liberate the camps for Jews. On our level, my captain, my lieutenant, my buddy, we did not know about camps for Jews, and I'm not talking about Franklin Delano Roosevelt or the mucky mucks up top, because they damn well had to know about those camps, pardon my French. So I learned, listen, these camps were going up for years, but we didn't know about it. We start marching in the woods. There was still some fighting going on, I think, in Linz. There was all of a sudden the most offensive, nauseating stench, a smell that got into your nostrils, into your brain. Try to cover our face. What is that freaking smell? You ask any liberator, the smell is something you never can forget. It's an overpowering stench. Finally, through the trees, I remember it's kind of a damp day. I saw barbed wire as far as I could see it, a big, like a compound. That turned out to be the Gunskirchenlager, a subcamp of Mauthausen in Austria. Very little resistance. There was one Nazi guard that didn't drop his gun. The captain said, the interpreter kept screaming, the German would have dropped the gun. I don't know, either he was stupid or trying to be a hero, but he didn't. The captain told me to do my job, so I had to take care of him. That's the last mistake he made. Cut through the barbed wire and entered the Gunskirchenlager. And my friends, what I witnessed at that camp was the most horrific sight I've ever seen or ever hope to see the rest of my life. On the left, there was a pile of skeleton-like bodies. And on the right, there was another pile of skeleton-like bodies. When I say skeleton-like, I mean skeleton-like. Those who were alive, those poor souls, that's the term my lieutenant affectionately kept saying. Oh my God, look at these poor souls. So emaciated, it defies description. They were coming toward me. I close my eyes because I try to visualize the sight. It comes back to me when I remember they were chanting prayers in dialects that we couldn't understand. Some were crawling, some were crying. They had these, it looked to me like pajamas. They were like filthy gray and white stripes, some with the top, some with the bottom rags. I couldn't distinguish genitalia. The cheeks were all hollowed out, and their eyes sunken back into the sockets of their heads, sores over the body. There was dysentery all over. The smell I told you about. We weren't prepared for this. We looked at each other. We didn't know what was going on. Essen bitte, Wasser bitte, Zigaretten bitte, Essen. This is what, all of a sudden we start hearing this. A cigarette, I didn't smoke, but some of my buddies would get their cigarettes and start handing to people to smoke. But they would take the cigarette and pull off the wrappings and start biting and chewing into the tobacco, just with starvation, what people were doing. And then I handed out my C and K rations. That's the Army issue at the time. Now I think they have MREs, but, Spam or crackers or whatever we had. And I remember many would start biting and chewing. You had to visually watch people. And then they start, not all, but some would grab the esophagus or the wind and start falling to the ground. So I'm trying to give you the picture of what we're trying to help. And people are falling to the ground. And then the medics came up and screamed at us, no solid food, damn it, because apparently you can't always swallow when after you're starving. So it was Panicville, it was chaos. My captain was on the walkie-talkie screaming, God damn it, get people up here, there are people dead up here, there are people dying up here, and he couldn't get through. That's what we had communication wasn't like today. I remember some were backing off like they were scared, and the lieutenant was smart enough to say, they're scared of the uniform. They're delirious. They don't know who we are. Who can speak Yiddish? Who can speak German? He knew I was Jewish, so he screamed at me, Moskin, speak Jewish. I couldn't speak Hebrew or Jewish. My parents and my grandparents, and all grandparents came from the old country when I was a kid. You're American now. I want to learn English. You speak English. Everybody speaking at the table, the dinner table. I did homework. My grandparents looking, wanted what they did in the bedroom. I don't know, but they didn't speak. Only thing I knew was if you're Jewish, you're like chutzpah, meshuggah, or some idiomatic terms, but I couldn't speak the language. But I was able to say, Ich bin auch a Jude. I think it's German, actually. I heard it somewhere. Ich bin auch a Jude. It just came out of me. I am also a Jew. And now for the first time, there were some smiles at the Gunskirchen, like, oh, Amerikaner, danke, Juden, danke, danke. I particularly remember this elderly man. This is what I started to say before. This frail elderly man started coming toward me, and chanting prayers and smiling, saying, danke, Jude, Amerikaner, danke, thank you, thank you. And then he went down on the ground, and I'm looking at him, and he on his knees, and he started to kiss my boots, and my boots were caked with blood and feces and vomit and mud, who knows what. I knew he was trying to be affectionate toward me. I understood that, but I never had anybody, kind of groveling at my feet. I was uncomfortable. I couldn't. So I took my arms and I put them under his armpits, and I pulled him up so that he came up this way, the back of his head. As he came up, God help me, the stench. You can't imagine, the smell was so overpowering, and I wanted to pull away, but I didn't. And then the back of the nape of his neck with these open, pussy, festering sores go all the way down his neck. And this is graphic, but out of the pussy sores, there were lice. They all had lice, so lice was crawling. Oh, God. I feel it when I tell about this each time. I wanted to pull away, but he put his arms around me, and as he came up, he started to cry, and he kept saying, danke, Amerikaner soldier, over and over, and I started to cry, and it was very emotional. It's a scene I can never, ever forget, and we were then ordered to check out the barracks. As far as you could see, 2 layers of bunks, many dead, on the ground, dead bodies, live people on top of them, all emaciated, pleading, like, kannst du helfen Sie mir, help me, help me. Couldn't stay in there. The smell was so bad. I'm not a doctor. None of us were doctors. We were just young soldiers. And I went out and I started screaming, medics, God damn it, medics, get up here. There are people dying in here. Poor medics were overmatched. These were just young soldiers in World War II that were trained mostly to stick morphine in combat, because guys were in an awful lot of pain when you lose an arm and bleeding. Guys bled out left and right. It's not like today. They save a lot of guys. They amputees all over the place when I go to the hospitals. But did the best you could for the wounded, but we couldn't stay with the wounded. So there were guys on my right, my left, dying, dead. Soldiers I'm talking about, as well as it was. But the medics never got enough credit. I mean, these young guys, what they had to do, they tried to figure who they could save, who they couldn't save. And that was everywhere you looked in the Gunskirchen lager was the foul stench of the dead and the dying. That's all I can tell you. It's like trying to describe the indescribable. I do the best I can, but if you weren't there, baby, it's the smell, the bodies, the death. Last thing I heard, maybe 15, 18, 20,000, as far as I could see, bodies. I remember when I came out from the barracks, there was this dead horse on the side of the road. And I saw 3 of these inmates, they got in the bark of a tree, and they were digging it into this dead horse. You could hear the ligaments and the bones cracking, and I'm watching. And they went down and they picked the entrails of this dead horse up, and they started to bite and chew, and the blood is squirting all over. And you want to see a scene, what starvation does to people, and I saw it. And it's hard to fathom, but I saw it. One of my buddies said it was like the devil himself took a vacation and came to the Gunskirchen Lager. And I never forgot that. The devil himself came up and visited the Gunskirchen Lager. And I remember a few times feeling weak in the knees. And my non-Jewish buddies, I can tell you, they were pissed. They were mad as hell. They were going to kill every Nazi in sight. My lieutenant had to say, you guys take it easy. You're not going around shooting everybody. We talked about this after the war. We used to get together. We know what we saw in Gunskirchen, and we didn't think it was just a crime. Some of the Hebrew schools I speak to, Solomon Schechter and some of these other places, they say, were you more upset because these were Jews in the camp, or because you were Jewish? And I'm going to tell you, I never even thought in terms of that they were Jews. To me, these were human beings, not that they were Jewish. They want me to say that I felt stronger because they were Jewish. I have to tell you, no, that didn't enter my mind. These were human beings. To me and my buddies, we felt this was a crime not just against Jewish people. It was a crime against everything that's decent, that's just, that's right, that's moral. It was a crime against humanity. We talked about this many times, but we saw it. After the war ended in Europe, I remained as a member of the Army of Occupation. I was there for about a year, and I spoke to hundreds of survivors from other camps, like Dachau, and Auschwitz, and Birkenau, Treblinka, and Buchenwald, Bergen-Belsen, Madonna, Kelno, Ravensbrück, Sachsenhausen, Goose. I could go on forever. The last time I spoke to Sarah Bloomfield, who's executive director down at the Holocaust Museum in Washington. Sarah told me that, Alan, we figured there was close to 30,000 camps if you count this, all the satellite and sub-camps. 30,000. One story is worse than the next about the crematoria, the gas chambers, from the survivors, from my fellow buddies. Just unbelievable horror. It was mind-boggling. It's going to be almost 70 years now. Hard to believe. Next month, it's going to be 70 years. Hard for me to try to comprehend and to try to verbalize to you people the overwhelming enormity and the overwhelming bestiality of what I witnessed. And that's the word I use, bestiality, because that's what it was. And it left a mark on me. A mark in my heart, my soul. I can't get rid of that mark. Sometimes I want to forget it, but I can't. I keep repeating, and I've repeated since, how did this happen? Why did this happen? How did the civilized world let something like this happen? I never got an answer that made any sense to me. So in the memory of those 6 million, you've heard this many times, I'm sure. 6 million Jews, and including 1.5 million children of the 6 million. And you know, I think after a while, that 6 with 6 zeros, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean, you know, just 6 million, 6 with 6, but it's not a 6 with 6 zeros. And I had this buddy of mine, a righteous Gentile, who speaks with me sometimes on the circuit when we travel. And he said, damn it, 6 million. And he went, it's a life. A life. A life. A life. He says, you do that for 60 seconds a minute. You do it for 60 minutes an hour. 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 4 weeks in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, one at a time, and keep going. It's a life every time. That's what 6 million is. You got to get a handle on that. It's not a 6 with 6 zeros. let's not forget the 5 or 6 million non-Jews. A lot of the kids come up to me afterwards and say, I didn't know that. Catholics, Catholic priests, gays, Jehovah's Witnesses, gypsies, those who didn't agree with the Nazis, those righteous Gentiles who try to help their Jewish friends and neighbors, knowing that if they got caught, they and their families would be thrown. My voice is starting to go. Any water, I could use it, but at any rate, thank you. Excuse me for 1 second. I just got over a cold and it's giving way a little bit. I got technology all over me here. But all those non-Jews who never got enough credit, thrown into the camps. You know, I wanted to be a lawyer. I'm deviating a little bit, but I just want to say I wanted to be a lawyer. So I attended the Nuremberg war crimes trials, which went on for a year after when I was over there as a member of the Army of Occupation. I wanted to see Robert Jackson, who was our prosecutor in action, in Nuremberg Palace. How the hell that palace never got, it was beautiful, a big palace in Nuremberg. We bombed the hell out of Nuremberg, but somehow that palace was intact, and that's where they had the trial. The pompous Nazi Goering and the rest of that group. But this is couple of things that was acknowledged. Bill of particulars, interrogatories, all the legal jargon, witnesses over and over again that stand out in my mind. People would come into some of the camps and the Nazis would pick out certain people, their age, gender, whatever. Nazis were very good with record keeping. Came back to haunt them, by the way. Keep good records. Put them on an operating table and then start to operate without anesthesia. And the testimony for people, the screams of pain went out. The screams, 10 seconds. They had a stopwatch near the body. 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Maybe a minute, till the screams would stop, the person was dead. And then they write it down how long the person lived. Dr. Mengele and these doctors, that's the kind of experiment they were doing. The testimony of what they did to twins, I won't even tell you to go into what they did with twins, the experiments. It was inhumane. Men and boys came into the camp, men and boys to the right, women and girls or mothers with their babies on the left. Testimony over and over. Apparently the men and the boys that could work, they were okay, but the women and the girls, many of the times they told them to strip. Some of the camps to take their clothes off. So I guess they were being degraded. And then they would go in what appeared to be, we saw many looked like showers with nozzles up on the top. And the doors would shut and gas. And they gassed thousands and thousands of mothers and babies and teenage girls. And we saw the scratches on the walls where they were trying to get out. And this went on, according to the testimony, 24/7, almost into the time we liberated the camps. Those butchers kept doing that. And I remember my captain saying that Ike is what we all called Commanding General Dwight D. Eisenhower, was affectionately known as Ike, later our president. If you guys didn't know what you were fighting before, you got to know now. Evil. The Nazis were evil. And I remember he screamed to my captain and all the units, we weren't supposed to take those bodies and put them on the trucks. He wanted us to bring the German civilians, and we did, from the towns nearby, and make them see, because he said, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't think much about it at the time, but he sure as hell was right. He says, I want you guys to take my officers, take photos, write it down, take pictures. I want this testimony over and over, because someday these SOBs, this is so horrific, they're gonna say, we made it up, it didn't happen, it couldn't happen. And he was right. And all I remember is we brought these civilians in, and I'm not gonna get into that and make a judgment. Every one of them, first they covered, like they couldn't, they didn't wanna look. The smell I told you about. Ich weiß es nicht. They didn't know. Well, if all your Jewish neighbors are taken away day after day by train and by bus, the smell, the smokestacks, I think you got to know something is going on, but that's for another day and another subject. But they didn't know. Everyone who didn't know anything what was happening. As I say, every time I speak a little off, I'll always do it in memory and in tribute to my own band of brothers, like Tex, Schoolboy, Blaze, Tony, Wacko, RJ, Sully, Sanchez, Maury, Tommy. Tommy was the only kid, a little younger than me, just came over to the outfit 2 weeks before, and damn it, we got hit with a mortar shell a week before the war ended. I mean, my captain who saved our squad, not once, but from ambush twice. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my captain, and I wouldn't be here. And all those guys, you know, I tell the young people, and I'll tell you, they're down below and they're urging me on, because I'm just one of the lucky ones that made it. And I don't know why. Sometimes I'm here. I always say it. I don't know why I'm here sometimes. I don't know why them and not me? Why them, not me? They made it possible that you can sit here today and listen to me in this great country of what I'm telling you. And we're not perfect, and we can do better, and hopefully we will, but damn it, it's the best thing going around. I've been around the block, and don't you ever take anything for granted what you got in this country. I tell these kids over and over again. Some of these kids, to me, are spoiled rotten. I don't want to get off the track too much, but I mean, I go into some of these schools, and the seniors, I go in and I look at these Hondas and Camrys, all beautiful new cars. Boy, I said, thank God the teachers are making a buck now. Look, they can afford these new cars. Isn't that wonderful? And I go into tell the principal that, and he said, Mr. Moskin, those are not the teachers, those are the students. And I remember screaming at the students, are you crazy? Who the hell had a new car when my daughters have heard this 1,000 times. My grandchildren included. They don't know how to save, and I told us that we had piggy banks then. The mother and father told you how to save. You put a penny, a nickel, a dime. You got $10 after 2 years, and you think you won the lottery. That's what saving was all about. Who can't save today, Dad? I don't want to go off the track here. So let me just say this. I speak here today for each one of those poor souls. That's the term that my lieutenant affectionately, because all those people murdered by the Nazis, all my buddies, all the other GIs, they can't speak, but damn it, I can speak, and I will speak, and I'll continue to speak as long as I have the strength. I'm their messenger. I tell you, and I tell particularly the middle school and the high school kids, they got to be my messenger. Because the young people I speak to now, I tell them they're the last generation that's going to hear people like me and the survivors and the hidden children and the kinder transport and the righteous Gentiles, because my daughters don't like me to say this, but we got to be realistic. In 10 or 15 years, we're not going to be around. By the time they have children, we're not going to be around. And the deniers are going to come out of the woodwork, like Ahmadinejad, Mel Gibson's father, that punk David Irving over in Europe, and I know them all, saying the Holocaust was a myth. The Jews made it up. They exaggerated. When we're gone, my God, they're going to say it in spades. So I say to these young people, do you think I'm making this up? Do you think I'm enjoying doing this? Do you think this is a myth that I'm talking about, that I was hallucinating? Damn it, if you do, forget what I told you. I said, you got to tell those deniers when I come out of the woodwork, you heard somebody that was there and he saw what happened. Those who choose to forget or ignore the events of the past are doomed to have the events of the past revisited. That's been said over and over again in many different words. But that's the truth. That's a truism. You learn from history. I tell these kids, you learn from history. Unfortunately, we don't learn. We thought we were getting rid of the Nazis and that was going to be the end. And then we got this Darfur, Sudan, and Libya and Syria, and these nuts, ISIS beheading people, burning people on television, Al-Qaeda. When is this hate going to end? And even in this country, I belong to a group called the Southern Poverty Law Center, run by Morris Dees, a lawyer friend who I met years ago. When I have the chance, he's got something north, I try to meet him again. To me, what a guy. He's been devoting his life to weeding out all these hate groups in the United States of America, with his life being a danger every time he goes. He's a tremendous lawyer, but a better human being. Gets judgments against him as fast as he can to put him out of business. And the last notice I got somewhere here, I think is verified. Over 700 hate groups in the United States of America. And in this state of New York, 44. Ku Klux Klan and the rest of that ilk with the Heil Hitler. Kill the niggers, kill the spics, kill the kikes. That's what they do. In this country, subsidized by anonymous, you know what, the money people behind it. Well, let me get near the end here and just say, I'm going to be honest and blunt. My generation failed. We didn't get rid of the hate, the prejudice, and bigotry. It's still out there, unfortunately. It breaks my heart to say it, but it's out there. It's still going strong. So I tell the younger generation about this, that we didn't do the job. And I quote Edmund Burke, who always said that all that is necessary, it's said in different ways, but I'll say all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men, and I'll add good women not to act. And I tell the young people in particular, I don't want them to be bystanders. Any of you young people here, we got enough bystanders. I'm an upstander. I want you to speak up and out for what's right and what's true. And don't hesitate about it. And I know it's not easy sometimes. You know, you hear some of these wise-ass guys that think they're funny and make cracks about the niggers or the kikes or whatever word, the wops. Well, I don't know what words they use today. And you sit there and you're uncomfortable and you don't agree with it and you're squeamish, but you don't get up. You don't say anything. And I'm an upstander. I don't say that in front of me because I say, knock it off. I want you to get up. I want you to have the courage to get up and be an upstander. That's where it starts, with these little wise asses. Or in the house. I keep thinking back, where does this hate, where does it come from? I think it may start in the house when you're young and maybe your parent will say something. If a black person does something, you know, their picture was planted on the paper and they can't hide the color of their skin, and then people come home, see your mom and just see what they do? See, they're rapists, the they word. I spoke to Georgie, my friend, about this. The they word. Black person doesn't represent all black people. Use the he word, the she word, not the they word. No more than if a Jewish person, and I got something going on in my neck of the woods with the Hasidim and everything else, which I won't go into the details of, doing things that I find embarrassing, illegal, or whatever. And I don't want to hear my non-Jewish friends next to me say, after a few drinks, and forget that I'm sitting next to them. That's what the Jews do. Those people don't represent me. Judge people, he, she, not they. Get rid of the they word. I emphasize that as much as I can. I ask you to be an upstander, not a bystander. President Kennedy said, and I'll never forget, and I can't do it, I've done it. It's my Jewish thing of me, we use our hands, I'm sorry. But I remember him saying that strong, I'll never forget. Mankind must put an end to war, or war is going to put an end to mankind. I never forgot it. And it's scary, but it's true. We don't have an M1 war anymore. We got crazies out there. We got nuclear out there. We got North Korea, Iran, for God's sake. Blow up a country. So we got to get rid of all this hate and all this garbage. So let me end by stating that on a personal level, I've been going a long time now. On a personal level, I'll never be able to forget the living hell and horror that I witnessed. Never. I was a young 18-year-old, hadn't even turned 19 yet when I saw this. I think back and I look at 18-year-olds today, I can't believe that what I went through and that I was only 18, but I was. As I said before, it left a mark on me. I don't dwell on it all the time. I love opera, I love music, I love sports. I think of other things. But this is something I cannot forget. I will never forget it. I will continue to speak out whenever and wherever I'm asked. If it's a ladies' room, a men's room, I'll go anywhere now to speak, to get the word out. And particularly and most importantly to the young people. So that they'll bear witness for me when I'm gone and tell their children and grandchildren, I told you before, what they heard, and hopefully, God willing, that their generation and future generations will finally get rid of this hate, this prejudice, this bigotry, this discrimination that we still see all over the world. And they will make absolutely sure that there'll never, ever be a Holocaust like the hell and the horror that I personally witnessed back on May 4th, 1945. The saying goes, never again, never again, never again. Thanks for listening. I went long, but God bless, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.